Alright, what is up guys? Welcome back to another Zoids review. After a very long hiatus, I finally got around to building another HMM. These two have been in my backlog only since the beginning of last year when they came out, so they're not that old as compared to some of the other HMMs that are in my backlog suffering, waiting to be built. But due to some situations I had with my actual job and many different job changes and all sorts of other drama dealing with that, I wasn't able to commit the time required to do any model kit building pretty much since like May of last year, which is really sad. But we're finally back, and I hope that I can consistently get around to building them, maybe build one a month until I've gone through my entire backlog and alternate with some of the other model kits in my backlog. But we decided to build the Rev Raptor and the Raven Raptor in one sitting, and I am very, very happy with these guys. So I want to talk a little bit about the Rev Raptor in terms of the lore first, and then we'll kind of go into it. And I also have a little Hasbro Rev Raptor over here as well we'll use for comparison. But the Rev Raptor in the lore was, of course, developed in the battle story by the Gylos Empire, so it's after the Xenobus Empire has been, eliminated. It's rather late in the story in terms of the lore. And the Rev Raptor was implemented as this special forces type of Zoid that is supposed to be incredibly fast, nimble, and agile, and go into situations to overwhelm and dismantle armor and larger Zoids, so things like the Gogulus, and similar to how what is speculated to be actually true with real dinosaurs, where a group of raptors could gang up on a larger dinosaur and overwhelm it. This was largely the case with the Rev Raptor as well, where a team of them could easily gang up on a larger Zoid like a Rev Raptor or a Gordosaur and overwhelm it and take it down. And it was very easy for it to do so, considering that they're incredibly smart, they're incredibly fast, they're incredibly easy to control. They only require one pilot, they don't require any support crew, and they have a variety of incredibly strong bladed weapons. Their claws, and then most infamously the giant blades on their back right here. They were also outfitted with these kind of standard issue Empire weapons at the time that you see on a number of different Zoids, the pile bunkers, and so this is one of them right here, and on the Raven Raptor. And the pile bunker is kind of designed as this anti-armor weapon where it just sort of jettisons this giant spear into the enemy Zoid, and it's incredibly effective at puncturing the armor on the large Gogulus. And these guys were nimble enough to get around their defenses and were able to do that. And you're able to actually use that in the video games as well to great effect. I think in my Zoids vs. 3 Let's Play, I actually used a Rev Raptor with a pile bunker on a Gogulus and won the encounter fairly easily, and managed to get the Gogulus stun locked. On the box of the HMM Rev Raptor here, we have a famous scene from some of the battle story promotional art redrawn from a different perspective. So many people have seen the illustration of the Blade Liger and running away from the Rev Raptors. Well, this is that same image, but from a different perspective, which I think is really cool. There wasn't a whole lot of ranged weapons that these were outfitted with. I'm presuming that they are meant to have a small ion beam cannon right here on their back, which was sort of a re-implementation of the wind-up crank from the wind-up version, where they've now kind of turned that into less of a necessary aesthetic thing and more into an actual functional weapon. In the anime, the Rev Raptor, of course, is used very sparingly for specific utilizations by the Gylos Empire, and appears a couple times throughout Chaotic Century and Guardian Force. Notably, there was an episode where Van himself gets to hijack one and pilot one because it was just the closest thing he had available at the time. And it ended up being very powerful, and he was able to take out the rest of the squadron that was around him using its powerful blades that he was already accustomed to from the Blade Liger. And then in New Century Zero, they're quite common enemy fodder Zoids. They are small and not very heavily armored, so they're pretty easy to take out for larger Zoids like the Liger Zero. And the Backdraft group used them pretty liberally throughout New Century Zero. As far as the video games go, again, these are in Zoids Saga and Zoids Versus, with the Raven Raptor pretty much being a Zoids Versus exclusive and is never really mentioned in lore specifically, aside from the video games. In those games, like I said, the Rev Raptor in the Zoids Versus series is incredibly powerful because of its blade weapons, and as you guys know from those games, the blade weapons are absurdly overpowered, and you can solo pretty much the entire game with something like the Blade Liger or the Schneider or the Liger 0X, and the Rev Raptor does have the same capabilities there with the amount of damage output you can get from the blades, just on a much smaller and much weaker package. And then in Zoids Versus 3, you can experiment with a lot more weapons, like the Pile Bunker and the Double Pile Bunker, and the same thing in the Zoids Saga games. So, on to the model kits. So, I want to talk briefly about the original motorized one here. I never actually owned one of these as a kid, but funny enough, my brother did. This was actually the very, very first Zoids kit that my brother got when we were kids. I got the Terra Striker, and he got the Rev Raptor. And so I've had some experience with this toy from when he had it as a kid, and I always thought it was really cool. You know, it only appeared very sparingly in the anime, but it was always really, really cool. And it has, you know, a little bit of a moving mouth, and the claws open and close. And the wind-up feature sees the arms and legs move back and forth pretty nice. And this little, again, looks like a weapon thing on the back is actually the wind-up crank that you can take out and wind up the motor, and the blades do move back and forth. This one I got secondhand at a secondhand store near me, and the same place I got the D Folos or whatever it was called. And unfortunately, it was missing the other blade, which is a little bit of a shame. But here is the original Hasbro box for it, still in pretty good condition. I'm very glad that that was included with it. And so very happy to have that in the collection. But to kind of compare it to the HMM version, the color, I'm going to move the Raven Raptor off to the side a little bit. The color is very different, as you can see. The original version is a much darker maroon color, and this Zoid was not made for Japan for Takara Tomy until the NJR line in 1999. This was not an original OER or OJR Zoid. It wasn't in the European line or the comics or anything like that. It was made for the 1999 line. But in addition to the color difference, mainly the gray skeleton of the HMM version, accompanied by the black accents that are on the original wind-up version, the red is a different and much brighter, more pronounced color, and overall the color deco of the new one does look a lot better. There's a lot more color to it, and the caps are still this very appealing purple color. But the most noticeable thing about the HMM Rev Raptor that I couldn't believe when I first saw pictures from the Zoids Collectors Group of this thing assembled was the size. This thing is significantly larger than the original wind-up version, and I think they just had to do that in order to fit all the engineering and articulation and detail in there, but it still scales well next to other small Zoids, and I think building an HMM Rev Raptor and the Raven Raptor was the equivalent build time of building the Mulga and Cannon Remulga that I built last year that were combined into that 1-2-pack. This guy right here, which I guess we'll talk more about him now, the HMM Rev Raptor, I built in probably about 2 hours if you consider my time uninterrupted. And I would actually recommend this more than any other HMM Zoid on the market as the best HMM to start with brand new if you've never built an HMM before. This guy is fantastic in terms of his engineering, is very simplistic but very satisfying, and gives you an idea of some of the nuances with how Kotobukiya handles the HMM pieces and how they distribute them amongst the different runners. But yeah, about if you're uninterrupted and you're moving fairly quickly and not getting easily distracted like I tend to do sometimes, you're looking at about 2 hours from start to finish to build this guy. The Raven Raptor was a little bit more because it has those extra runners for the pile bunker. But yeah, as you can see, I probably should have left him like this to begin with and then posed him, but we can kind of do that in reverse there and pose him out in a nice little dynamic pose there. He's incredibly poseable, and it's much easier to pose him than the other HMMs such as the Ligers, because they're dependent on all 4 of their legs in order to stand, whereas this Raptor design isn't. And of course the claws even articulate and move up and down like this, and you can even extend the claws out along this track right here. You see this one part of the blade, if the camera will focus. The camera will focus. Holy crap. There's this one part of the blade up here that is opaque and that's dull instead of metallic like this, the blade actually slides along that as a track and can arc out like this. So you can get crazy, just it has so many cool features like that, and you can get these really dynamic poses with the blades that just look absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible engineering. This was a kit we were teased for several years. I want to say it was the end of 2018 or 2019 that we first got the prototype images of this revealed, and it was an HMM that we had been looking forward to for years, and we finally got it here it was at the end of 2021, beginning of 2022, and this is one of the HMMs you can find for Western distribution. Kotobukiya has shipped it to US stores that have ordered allocation for it, so if you have a Hobbytown USA, or maybe even a local game store or something like that, chances are you can find these guys in the wild. I actually pre-ordered the Raven Raptor off of AmiAmi or HLJ, one of those sites I usually always use. I believe it was AmiAmi I ordered the Raven Raptor off of, but I gave away the Rev Raptor at my Zoids panel at Anime Weekend Atlanta in 2021, and so someone out there, hopefully a viewer of the channel, got to build a HMM Rev Raptor. I think they said it was their first ever HMM as well. I gave it away as a prize, and then bought my own later from Hobbytown, and this one was $50 at Hobbytown, which may seem like a lot for such a little guy, and it kind of is, but it definitely gets you in the door with HMMs and gets you an idea of what you're looking at, and I can't recommend them enough. They do have some quirks though, so I want to talk about the sockets, or the little gaskets that are used for the joints on HMMs are typically these little rubber pieces, and those are there to add tension to the joints so the Zoid doesn't do the splits and just fall to the ground under its own weight on the joints, causing the joints to move and for it to flex inadvertently and fall down and become loose. So most Zoids use those rubber sockets to make the joints tighter so that it won't articulate, causing it to fall down under its own weight. This one does not. All of those socket pieces are plastic. They're maybe slightly softer plastic than the rest of the Zoid, but they are not rubber, and so that's fine. It's very sturdy and is not loose at all, because it does have the cockpit with the Android pile in there, before I forget. It's not loose, but the hips, the ball joint that becomes the hips, is very, very tight, and I'm actually worried about breaking it. It's so tight. Maybe not breaking it, but it's incredibly difficult to move it to where I don't really want to articulate his hips forward and back at all, and I've kind of been pivoting him on his ankles there. And I think the reason why the ball joints on his hips are so tight is because if you look at the construction, the ball joint itself is asymmetrical on either side. The pin that goes into it has a groove on it, and you have to match up that pin with the groove. So the ball joint, the pin cannot rotate inside of the ball joint's socket. It has to rotate the entire ball itself, and it just takes a lot more force to do that than would otherwise be necessary if the pin could just spin inside of the ball joint socket. But maybe they did that to prevent the ball joint from wearing down and becoming loose over time. Who knows? Another thing worth pointing out is here on the legs, you can see there's these open holes right here. And there's a couple different things you can do with these. I left these open here on the Rev Raptor one to kind of show you what they look like. And then on the Raven Raptor here, I'll show you the different configurations you can do with that. So there's two different pieces that come on your runners, and you can either go for a solid cap like that just closes off that peg hole, or you can put a double-sided peg into it, which allows you to put a cap over it like that. So I'm leaving mine open on the Rev Raptor in case there's some weapons I can slot into that spot. And I have them covered up on the Raven Raptor because the Raven Raptor has the pile bunker. And to talk about the Raven Raptor a little bit more now, who I think is just awesome looking. So for the color deco, they've opted to go with not quite a black, but this very, very dark blue, and I think that it's incredibly appealing looking. The caps are the same color, still the same gray accent, and then you have this gold accent, which is this very nice, very appealing looking, molded in gray. And because the Raven Raptor is a little bit more expensive, because it comes with an extra weapon, I think they also opted to cast the cockpit piece in a different color. So the Rev Raptor, rather disappointingly, the cockpit canopy up here is the exact same black that the rest of the armor bits and the tail are cast in. But if you look at the original wind-up Rev Raptor, you'll see it's a more metallic color. So they decided to go with that metallic color, and this is its own separate runner on the Raven Raptor, where it's its entire piece molded in this much more metallic gunmetal gray plastic. So I think that's a nice touch that they opted to do that, considering you're spending the extra money on the engineering regardless. Only difference being that there's 2 peg holes here on the back next to the pseudo wind-up crank. You can see them right there. Both those peg holes are filled on the Raven Raptor. On this side we have the little rangefinder, the little radar antenna thing, and this side of course we have the pile bunker, which is very similar to the cannon that the Cannery Mulga had, where it has this battery action thing where the cylinder moves back and fires, and there's a rectangular portion of the actual spear inside of there that's designed to stay in line with this battery action right here. It is possible for it to become dislodged from that. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but basically you can get the spear to move all the way to the front and all the way to the back if you really try to, but I don't want to mess it up. I kind of want to keep it where it is. And it does have some articulation. You can move it forward on its arm there and kind of move it a little bit up like that and rotate it side to side a little bit. And it has some moving parts on it. Like it doesn't the carry handle doesn't move, but this piece moves and this lever moves, and it's just really, really cool. And it also has the inexplicable magazine, just like the Cannery Mulga's cannon, which just like that cannon has the bullet molded into the top of it, which seems very silly, but yeah, these guys are awesome. I cannot recommend them enough. Once again, they should be pretty easy to find because they're relatively new. They're still in circulation, and there was a Western allocation for them, so they should be pretty cheap and easy to find. Hopefully you can get the Rev Raptor for about $45 and the Raven Raptor for just under $60, I would imagine. But don't overpay for them. I think it was also possible to order the Pile Bunker unit as its own thing and equip your Rev Raptor with them as well if you choose to. I think it would also be really funny to see a double Pile Bunker configuration with one of these, and maybe if I bought another Pile Bunker unit, I would do that with this guy, but I think he's fine the way he is right now, and if you choose to do that, that's up to you. But that's about all I have to say about these guys. Love them. They're fantastic. Definitely check out your local hobby store that sells Gunpla, and check out your local secondhand shops. Check out the USA Gundam store online. Check out AmiAmi and HLJ to see if they still have them in stock. And I will see you guys next time with another HMM review. I think I'm going to be doing some more wind-up kits here soon. I think I'm going to go ahead and knock out the Buster Tortoise and the Snipe Master. And then I've got some more Transformers reviews on the horizon there, as you guys can see in the background. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.